Voila.
All righty. Well, look at us here live and in living color, as they used to say. I am just so excited that all of you decided to stop by and be a part of what we are trying to do right here. I am Dr. Andre Johnson. I am the Associate Professor of Rhetoric and Media Studies at the University of Memphis in the Department of Communication and Film. I also serve as the Scholar in Residence of the Benjamin L. Hooks Institute for Social Change. And it is indeed my pleasure to have all of you into the Zoom room and to have all of you here with us on this day as we celebrate the students, our graduate students, the awards and the presentations and the celebrations and all of the things that we do here at the University of Memphis in the Department of Communication and Film. The reason why we're doing this today, doing a live broadcast and doing this special program or event, I should say, is because typically we do this at a luncheon. We typically would have a luncheon at the end of the semester where we celebrate the graduate students. We celebrate all what the graduate students have done. Like I said, the publications, the presentations, all of that. And we have a wonderful time. But this year we did not have that because, of course, due to COVID. Last year we did not have our luncheon, of course, due to COVID. But this year, the awards committee, which I serve as chair, and let me just shout out the other members of the awards committee, Dr. Gray Matthews, Lori Stallings, and David Goodman. We decided that we ought to do something. We can't come together in person to do the luncheon like we normally do and to hand out the awards and the plaques and the checks. Let's not forget about the checks. There are checks involved, and we couldn't do that this time. But we thought that this would be a great way to highlight what the students are doing, what they have done, and what they are going to continue to do. So I want to bring to the fore two of our students who won the top awards in our department, graduate student awards, and I'm going to be introducing them directly, but also I am going to highlight other students as well, the other graduate students who have submitted what they have done, their publications, their presentations, and all of that. But we are going to have a conversation with Noor Aswad and JoAnna Boudreaux about their awards and about all the things that they want to talk about as it relates to their research and their teaching, their scholarship, about the graduate program. And yes, before they get out of this Zoom room, they will give wise counsel to fellow graduate students on how to navigate both their teaching and research and scholarship, but also personal life and all of that as well too. So we are excited about having them here. So without any further ado, I've been doing too much talking. So let me just introduce who we have here as part of our awards program. First, I would like to introduce the winner of the John Campbell Award. That's our teaching award named after one of the former professors here, John Angus Campbell, who so happened to serve on my committee when I was here as well. The awards committee is pleased to announce the winners of our prestigious graduate awards. And the first one I want to talk about is the John Campbell Teaching Award. We give this award to a graduate student that exemplifies high standards in teaching. We base our decision upon the student's teaching portfolio, which includes statement of teaching philosophy, teaching observation, seat scores, the breadth of the teaching experience, and the overall quality of the portfolio presentation. And the winner of the Campbell Teaching Award is Noor Aswad. Noor is a PhD student that teaches our oral communication and communication method classes. She suggests that one of the fundamental purposes of education is to enable a deeper understanding of the concepts at hand that will enhance intellectual character. Now, instead of viewing education as a one-way transmission of knowledge from teacher to student, Noor believes that pedagogy should follow a student-centric paradigm in which students are the most integral part of the pedagogical process. Throughout her teaching, she has attempted not only to engage students in the classroom environment, but to translate concepts raised in class to ones innately relevant in the world outside of academia. In his evaluation of her teaching, her committee chair, Dr. Antonio, better known as Tony de Velasco, writes that Noor is as, quote, polished of an instructor as you will find. He continued, Noor seems able to put students at ease while still demanding a lot from them and maintaining rigor. Whether teaching oral or calm methods, the quality of her instruction was not diminished in the slightest. He ends by writing, it should go without saying, trusting a doctoral student with an advanced research methods course displays the confidence our department had in Noor's ability to give excellent instruction to our undergraduates. My observation confirms that this confidence is well placed. Noor has not only stood out to members of the awards committee and her advisor, but students also recognize Noor's brilliance in their evaluations. Many call her, quote, knowledgeable and enthusiastic, with one student writing, her positive energy helped to ease the nerves I felt about having to do speeches. Another one wrote that Miss Noor always engages her students and makes sure that all of her students are comfortable. Yet another one of her students summed it up for us. Quote, Professor Aswad is amazing. She is so kind and values teaching students. She is the essence of what this university needs. I would like to recognize her as Professor of the Year. Now, in addition to her teaching excellence, winning the John Angus Campbell Teaching Award, Noor is an awesome researcher and as well. This year at the 106th National Communication Association, she was awarded the top overall paper and top student paper in Rhetorical and Communication Theory Division, and another highly ranked competitive paper in the International and Intercultural Communications Division. And on top of all of that, she has 3 publications. First, fragmented paradigms of transculturality, negotiation, equivocal agency in the refugee representations in refugee resettlement organizations. She and her advisor published Redemptive Exclusion, a case study of Nikki Haley's rhetoric on Syrian refugees in the recent issue of Rhetoric and Public Affairs. And then she and a host of others published She Embodied, a material collective reconceptualizing educational research methodology. So again, please help us celebrate the 2021 Campbell Teaching Award winner in the Department of Communication and Film, Noor Aswad. Noor, the floor is yours. Or should I say the Zoom room is yours. You're muted.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for that entirely too kind and generous introduction. I really appreciated it. So yeah, I want to thank the department and also the awards committee for this lovely honor. I think for us graduate students, this kind of recognition is really very meaningful, and as we're finding our way as instructors and teachers, and so it certainly is appreciated greatly. And when I got the news that I had won the award, it actually took me back to the first day of teaching when I was teaching intercultural communication at NDSU. And I remember how utterly nervous and terrified I was of teaching that day. Mm-hmm. And just thinking of myself standing in front of students for the first time. And it took a lot of preparation from then, and a lot of talking to other graduate students who had taught before me, also learning from the example of so many wonderful teachers that I've been blessed to learn from by example. And so it was really from their wisdom and experiences and generously sharing with me all of their thoughts on teaching and how I should approach it, that I was then able to devise my own teaching ethos and how I wanted to approach the classroom in a way that I felt was true to myself. And so it's been a journey and one that I've greatly enjoyed. But mostly I have to say I've really been blessed with great students in the time that I've been teaching. And I really feel that teaching is a two-way street, and there needs to be a willingness from both sides to be patient with one another and to learn from each other. And I love seeing how that synergy builds over the semester and how you kind of build that connection with the students and then also witness their scholarly transformation, the change in their consciousness. And it's extremely rewarding. And so for me as a teacher as well. And so that's just kind of what I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well said.
And now we move to our Graduate Research Award. The Graduate Research Award is given to the graduate student who has demonstrated, quote, intellectual creativity in the development of research that brings or potentially brings meaningful insight to the discipline. This original research must reflect excellence in theoretical and analytical judgment. We on the committee also look for clarity of writing and comprehensibility to readers outside of the candidate's specialty. The winner of our Graduate Student Research Award is none other than JoAnna Boudreaux. JoAnna is a PhD student studying how race, religion, and gender intersects to shape feminine and masculine identities. She is also interested in issues surrounding social inequality and health disparity. According to her committee advisor, Dr. Catherine G. Hendricks, JoAnna has, quote, demonstrated solid research and writing skills. In her first semester in our program, she secured a top paper panel submission at the Southern States Communication Association for the Gender Studies Division. This is all the more impressive when you realize now that JoAnna came to our program new to the communication discipline. Mm-hmm. Since then, she has presented on top paper panels in the Spiritual Comm Division at NCA and the Ethnography Division at the Southern States Communication Association. However, it is her book chapter, The Case of Dina Tokyo, using symbolic convergence theory to understand the backlash, that's featured in the research perspectives on social media influencers and their followers, published this year in 2021, that serves as an exemplar of her scholarship. Drawing upon Borman's symbolic convergence theory, Boudreaux examines the controversy surrounding Dina Tokyo, a Muslim vlogger and social media influencer, considered one of the most visible and most famous faces of the modern fashion movement. Now, in her essay, Boudreaux argues that SCT offers a way of understanding how hijabi influencers community rapidly emerge, become cohesive, and crafted a rhetorical vision. These visual narratives, she continued, communicate a shared story of a progressive Muslim woman shattering traditional stereotypes. It is scholarship like this that led Dr. Hendricks to write that JoAnna reflects well on our department and offers new insight to disciplinary work, focusing on identity, religion, and womanhood. Again, please help us celebrate the 2021 Graduate Student Research Award winner in the Department of Communication and Film, here at the University of Memphis, JoAnna Boudreaux. JoAnna, the Zoom room is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. As Noor said, that's too much. That's too kind. Thank you. I'm really humbled by that introduction. Thank you. I'm very proud of this award. I'm honored by it. I feel a lot of debt to the department, for recognizing this. I have it right here, the book that the chapter's in, and just like I said, on Facebook the other day, I know we've published in journals. You can have journal publications, but it's just kind of cool to have a book. I don't know. So, next step would be, to be, the author of the whole thing. But it's it's nice to have a chapter, in a book. I'm proud of this work for many different reasons. I have three that I'll talk about. So I'm proud of the chapter because I think that it showcases multiple dimensions of a particular cultural phenomenon that I was observing, and that was had to do with how young Muslim women were creating community online, and so part of it is that I'm explaining that social media became this third space for a lot of young Muslim women to narrate their own identities, to be their own voices. Specifically, if you're looking at the years, the rise of the modest fashion movement, or the what they would call the hijabi influencers, these young women on social media, young Muslim women, visibly Muslim women, as in they were wearing the headscarf, because visibly identifying. And so, and this was, in a time where there was a lot of, and this was like a transnational movement. And you think about how the headscarf specifically became like this politicized symbol, banned in France and, different European countries having certain sentiments about it. Then you have, the religious symbolism of it. And so you had like these young women coming of age trying to make sense of who they are and what all of this means. And so they were doing this stuff on social media. And I have daughters, and that's sort of how I young adult daughters. So that's how I sort of became interested in it. And I don't think anyone was really paying attention to what was going on. People were just criticizing these young women because I think as a culture, if you think about the male gaze, the gaze of Orientalism, women are not supposed to have voice or agency in narrating who we are. And these young women were receiving a lot of criticism from the secular communities, from their own religious communities. And so what I really wanted to do was just sort of unpack what was going on. And so I tackled this. And of course, this is also another important thing that they were doing. They also, created, which they've been given credit for this, the rise of the modest fashion movement, which was like $1 billion industry in 2018, according to, these fashion insiders. And Dolce and Gabbana, H&M, ASOS, all of these designer lines, basically started making fashion specifically, targeting toward Muslim women. So these young girls did that. They're not been given enough credit. And so my book chapter is specifically, I focused on Dina Tokyo, but really she was more of a foundation for me to talk about an entire community. How a community forms around certain personalities, what is behind that, how this person becomes representative of this collective group, trying to figure out who are we? What do we look like? Who are we supposed to be? And so that's one part of it. So another reason I'm proud of this research is that I did it on my own. When I say I did it on my own, I was doing it while I was in classwork, while I was in coursework. I was still fairly new to the discipline. It was in my first year, and I was really new to theory. I'm sorry, new to communication theory. I love theory. But I was becoming familiar with the different theories in communication, and so I used this 1972 theory from Borman that he used to talk about how Christian, it was a Puritan Christian community, how bonds are formed in a community through fantasy. And by fantasy, we don't mean like make-believe stories, but through by a shared experiences, through storytelling, like people telling their stories, and then sharing these emotions that are involved with these stories. And so I thought this was great. Of course, this was pre-social media, so I applied it to these social media communities, these fan communities. So there's like these different, like very clear steps in the theory that was useful, that helped me articulate what I saw was going on with this fan community. And finally, I think that this piece of research also is part of a demonstration of turning like personal interests or personal passions into scholarship. And I have tried, to sort of make that a theme in my own scholarship moving forward, because I really want to give value to the insider perspective, because I came from my master's degree is in sociology, so I sort of came from this discipline that really privileged the objective perspective, and I'm so grateful to communication for helping me to sort of expand out of that, and I really want to privilege this idea that knowledge has value when it's coming from the experience or the perspective of one who has had personal interactions with that, whatever cultural phenomenon one is writing about. And so I want to challenge some of that. So, but thank all of you. So that's really all I wanted to say about that particular research that I've done. And thank all of you for this award. I'm just so excited. Thanks. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, both of you, for just being who you are and being a part of this community, this department. I do see Dr. De Velasco is in the Zoom room. I would be remiss if I did not bring him up, and he is Noor's advisor, and just give him an opportunity to say a few words on behalf of his advisee.
Well, thank you, Andre. And congratulations to both of you for your awards. I've observed Noor teach several times now. Noor also shadowed me in this argumentation class right before COVID broke. And like I said in the letter, one of the things that stands out to me is that Noor is one of the so well prepared when they come into the classroom, really able to anticipate lots of different things that may or may not happen. And in particular, looking at students feel that sense of ease with a faculty member, while at the same time knowing that they're sort of stretching their abilities. And so in the public speaking class, I saw that. In the research methods class, I saw that. I'm so glad that, over the time that she's been here, that Noor has gotten to not only teach the public speaking course, but be recognized as a really versatile instructor. So I think it's going to serve her well as she kind of goes through her career and gets hired soon after finishing her dissertation. But I've told her privately what a joy it is to advise somebody who works so hard, who's willing to advocate for themselves, who is developing, and this is a teaching award, but Noor's basically developing, as you know, Andre, because you're on the committee, a pretty radical paradigm for how to think about rhetoric. Yes. And it's already getting recognized, and it's just astounding to be able to be around it. So I consider myself lucky, and she may not think that I'm trying to keep her here very long by constantly asking her to tweak her dissertation, but maybe that's part of my motivation. I don't know. Thank
you. I want to give you an opportunity, because I do want to just ask you about your research. So that's a perfect segue into, talking a little bit more about, we're celebrating you today for the teaching award, but You did win the Graduate Research Award back in 2018 as well, too, as well as the Communication and Fine Arts Research Award in 2020, campus-wide. So can you talk a little bit about what Dr. De Velasco was talking about your approach to rhetoric, and a little bit about that dissertation that I am so excited to read?
Thank you so much. I have a few words to say about my advisor. Should I say it now or should I say
it after? Yes. You can include all of that into it.
So I had a few, first of all, thank you so much, Tony. I mean, it's just been I'm just so lucky that our paths have crossed somehow in Memphis, Tennessee. And I really feel that the advisor-advisee relationship for me is the most critical part of the doctoral journey. I mean, without that missing part, we can't move forward. And so I've always tried to find an advisor who I feel I have both an intellectual affinity and also some, chemistry as well is really important, having both of those factors together. But also I think it's really critical to have an advisor who sees the value of your work and believes in you and has faith in you. And I think especially when you're trying to be an activist scholar who has a social justice orientation, who's taking a critical approach to problems in society, that faith is really, really important when you're tackling those kind of issues that are really sensitive and important. And so Tony has been such a great mentor for me in the fact that he always questions my work. And he always pushes against me in the best way possible. And I also sense his excitement and his energy for my work. And I think it's contagious. And I also feed off that energy that he has and that faith in me. And I always feel that Tony sees the potential for my work more than I see it myself. And so sometimes I may be very involved in a micro argument that I'm making, and he is able to scale it up for me and see how it's more broadly applicable and think bigger in some ways. And so it has often meant that we get into arguments and we talk again. And I love that about how it helps feed my work and makes me a better scholar. And so I've just been so lucky to have Tony with me on that journey.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Noor.
And now we want to move to the next award. It's the Osborn Fellowship. We are also pleased to announce this fellowship that came a little bit later than the previous two awards. The purpose of the award is to reward doctoral candidates for demonstrating excellence in scholarship, teaching, and departmental service during their time in the Department of Communication and Film. This fellowship carries with it a stipend enhancement of $3,000. The award is only available to graduate assistants in our PhD program who have passed comps and maintain at least a 3.8 GPA or above. Applicants must submit first a personal statement outlining their contribution to the department and the discipline in research, teaching, and service during their time at the University of Memphis. Second, letters of support from faculty in the program, including one from the student's advisor. Third, a CV, and then lastly, unofficial academic transcript. In awarding the fellowship, the awards committee looked at applicants' scholarly accomplishments, examples, conference presentations, public articles, books, grants, etc., teaching excellence, and service to the department, university, and or the discipline. The winner of the Osborn Fellowship for the 2021-2022 academic year is JoAnna Boudreaux. Since the committee has already highlighted her research accomplishments and announcing her Graduate Student Research Award, we focus now on her teaching and service accomplishments. While a PhD student in the Department of Communication and Field, JoAnna has, in her words, quote, enjoyed a diversity of experiences that have contributed to her growth and flexibility, both as a scholar and a professional. With every professor she worked with, she gained valuable knowledge, skills, and wisdom. JoAnna considers the duties assigned to her as a form of trust to be honored. She was part of the Curriculum Redesign Committee in the spring of 2020 and earned the certificate of completion for the online mastery course in the summer of 2020. In addition to teaching COM 2381, she has also taught COM 2100 and COM 4380. JoAnna writes that she, quote, she is especially grateful for these opportunities as I was able to design my own syllabi, choose my own textbooks, and use my creativity to develop my own unique lesson plans and assignments. Her service, however, is not limited to just the department. She has served the discipline as a reviewer for the Southern Gender Studies Division at NCA in the Feminist and Gender Studies Division, also the Critical Cultural Communication Division and Spiritual Comm Division of NCA. She's also served as a peer reviewer for Feminist Media Studies during autoethnography and gender, place, and culture. JoAnna has served as a media literacy specialist for the Memphis Public Library. She has guest lectured for classes in sociology and political science at the University of Memphis, and in Dr. Stephen Gaines, who is part of class of 2020 right here at the University of Memphis in our department, his world religions class at Midland College in Midland, Texas. Recently, she had agreed to participate in a panel discussion on religious diversity in higher education with Dr. Gaines at the same university. Her committee chair, Dr. Catherine Hendrick, writes of JoAnna, quote, "There is no doubt that Miss JoAnna Boudreaux is an asset to the local community, department, campus, and discipline. The award committee agrees with Dr. Hendrick's assessment, and we are pleased to have her in our program." Before I introduce the 2021-2022 Osborn Fellow, we do have in the Zoom room the Osborns, and we are so honored to have them. I'm going to bring them up and give them an opportunity to say whatever is on their heart right now to say to JoAnna Boudreaux and this wonderful, wonderful fellowship. Yeah, there you go.
I unmuted.
You're good. You're good.
By the time I learn how to deal with this Zoom, this is probably going to be past, and I will have wasted a lot of my life trying to figure out an obsolete technology. But well, let me just start off by saying how proud we are of this award and of these recipients. I have here next to me my partner in crime. We met University of Florida back in 1959. Wow. In the dark ages. But we've watched this department grow now for a better part of 6 decades. That's a heck of a perspective.
Yes.
And we've seen some wonderful scholars that you will recognize have come through here, starting, I think, with Michael Calvin McGee, a great old friend and a brilliant creative scholar in rhetoric, and followed by John Campbell, a marvelous teacher and a real Pied Piper of the field. Left such a reputation and heritage for teaching and instruction in the department. And then another miracle happened, and we were blessed to have the final years of Michael left with us. And it's just been, I mean, it's a department with a fabulous heritage. And I'm proud of you all, and I'm proud of the department for continuing that. And the kind of students that you obviously are, the students will continue that heritage. And so I'm just so proud, JoAnna and Noor. You both are doing splendid work. And I'd like to give Susie just a chance to get in here.
Please do.
Say something significant. How's that for an introduction? And now for a real
Right.
63 years.
We're praying. We're still praying for you.
We're mirror babies.
Brian,
We're praying.
being part of the department has meant a lot to me. From the day I walked in and met him at the, well, that was down in Florida, at the University of Florida.
That's right.
And when we came back to Memphis, I taught sometimes there. I taught in the psych department. I taught in the business school one semester. I taught at State Tech. I couldn't hold a job, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
Well,
and I'd do it all over again.
I would just like to say too that Susie really does not often receive credit as she should for an incredible generosity of spirit. She's the one who more often than not will say, well, let's give some money to that. We can help that along. We can help that initiative. And I really appreciate that in her. It's one of the many things I love about her. So anyway, thank you, Andre, for letting us be here. And I just feel so, in a way, I regret the fact that the COVID has kept us apart. I typically hang around the department a little bit more, walk the halls and get in the way. But I haven't been able to do that. For the last year or so, and I regret that. So it's good to see you finally.
Yes.
And make your acquaintance. So back to you, Andre.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your generosity, both you and Susie. Thank you for your continued unwavering support of this department and all that you mean to this department. And so again, I introduce the 2021-22 academic Osborn Fellow, JoAnna Boudreaux. And we give you an opportunity just to say a few words of acceptance there.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Johnson, once again for, I'm incredibly honored. I'm indebted to the department. I'm indebted to the Osborns. Thank you for your generosity. I'm really proud to be a part of this department. I'm proud to be a part of, a history. I did want to, just sort of, speak a little bit more about something I said in my personal statement in regards to, the professors that I've known and worked with, I wanted just to mention that I am truly, I mean that, like, I'm truly grateful for all of the experiences that I've had in the department. When I first came in, I was worked with Dr. Young, collecting survey data for the parents of children of sickle cell patients at St. Jude Research Hospital. That was an experience. And I got involved with the Sickle Cell Foundation during that semester, as in, going to their meetings. It just opened, I went to, the conference, we planned Sickle Cell Day at U of M. That itself, that opened up a whole new life experience for me. In the same vein, that also, working with Dr. Thoreau and Dr. Goldsmith, there was a project we did, or I helped what they did, and collecting qualitative interviews from AIDS patients. And, I'm grateful that I was a part of that. The conference planning I did with Dr. Amanda Edgar, working, proofreading her book for her, that experience. Also, the knowledge that I've gained in the classrooms of Dr. De Velasco, Dr. Levena, Dr. Stewart, Dr. Hendricks, Dr. Edgar, Dr. Matthews, and you, Dr. Johnson, just invaluable. I have grown from these long scholarly conversations that I've had with, Dr. Matthews. I also want to say that, Dr. Johnson, you have been just this uplifting, positive presence. I had an email from a student last night. I know she's she probably wants to she's going to get an A. But so every time I get an email from a student, I'm like, what's the ulterior motive here? But it was all about, as the semester ends, I want to let you know how you have uplifted me and you gave me this encouragement. And then she said that she was going to, due to the feedback, the positive feedback that I gave her all semester on her video speeches, that she's going to start a YouTube channel. So I right away thought about about how I really do try to affirm my students and make them feel seen in the ways that I think that you do that for your students. But also, there's that, but I have to give a lot of credit to my advisor, Dr. Hendricks. She is not here right now. She sent me a text. She is not feeling good. But Dr. Hendricks, she's a legend, in the discipline. She's an award-winning scholar in her own right. So she just occupies this level of greatness that I am aspiring to. And I can only hope to attain. So she sets the bar really high, and I have a lot of thoughts about Dr. Hendricks that I could share. But I want to say that she's has been a mother figure to me, but I know that a professor mother, academic mother, but I know that mother often gets this negative connotation when you compare professional women to mothers. But in that sense, I want to sort of reclaim that, because part of my scholarship is about reclaiming terms and challenging and interrogating how we use language and how we think about things. So I just want to say that she has been like a mother, and that she's revered, and she can be hard on you. She can be hard on me. She can question you, but she always has your back, and she always has your best interests at heart. And for that, she's just been a very, very valuable presence, in this whole journey.
Wow. Yes, I'm glad you brought up Dr. Hendricks. I was going to make mention that she wasn't able to be with us on today, but she sent an email a couple of days ago, was very thankful and grateful, and just was so excited that we were doing this. And I know if there was any way possible for her to be in the Zoom room today, she would definitely be here rather. I do want to just ask one question just to give you an opportunity, because I know that this is not the end of the road for any of you. So can you just talk a little bit? I'm gonna start with you, Noor. Can you just talk a little bit about maybe your dissertation, and then what are some of the future stuff that you're thinking about doing, some of the future research?
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. So at this stage, I recently passed my prospectus, which was wonderful. It was a great moment to finally reach that kind of milestone. And so I'm looking forward to starting on my dissertation. And as Tony tells me, let it marinate, let the ideas take their time, and not to hurry things. And I think that's really important as well. And so my dissertation is kind of trying to look at transnational rhetorical scholarship, specifically within the social movement field, and to kind of examine why as yet we haven't been able to enact meaningful solidarity with the subaltern, or specific categories of the subaltern, let's say, and why these so-called inclusionary efforts have till now excluded what I term the radical subject. And for me, the radical subject is the subject who is revolting against repressive, hegemonic forces in society, often at personal risk, at the risk of being disappeared or hurt or killed. And so they really are heroes in that kind of, in that way. And so as an intervention, I'm trying to look at the Syrian revolution in particular as a rhetorical performance, but also one which kind of encapsulates a liberatory moment when these radical subjects are coming up against authoritarian regimes in particular. And so for my dissertation, the radical subject really will be the chief protagonist, and their rhetoric, as revolutionaries, their rhetoric is going to be informative of both practice and theory. And so I'm trying to derive both of those by centering their voices and their agency and their ideas and their intellectual acumen. And so I'm taking this Syrian revolution almost as what I call a litmus test of how we can stand in solidarity with the revolutionaries, and also taking from this case study, a guide for rhetorical practice for other movements, other social movements that fall into a similar kind of paradigm. So that's what I'm hoping to kind of focus on. I have been trying to do more public scholarship, and I find it's been very rewarding. And so, I love the academic process, but it takes many years to get things published. It's ridiculous sometimes. Like the paper that Tony and I just published, literally we began writing it 2017.
Right.
It took a long, long, long time and so much patience to finally have it come out. And so what I found is that writing shorter public scholarship, while it doesn't take the place of or the rigor of academic scholarship, it's also important to speak to people who are not in the academic field and to make sure that what we're writing is also tangible to others. And so I've been doing a little bit of that here and there when I'm able to. And so I recently published on the 10th anniversary of the Syrian Revolution, a small article about how do you determine if revolutions have failed? When do revolutions end? And how can we make those kind of proclamations? And what does it mean to be a revolution? What is the end goal? And so that's kind of what I was trying to explore. And that also kind of feeds into my dissertation, hopefully. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Yeah, and so we're fasting right now with Ramadan. And so once Ramadan is over and I can get back my coffee, and I can start working again. So hopefully then I'll start writing and starting with that.
All right, great. Thank you. And JoAnna, what about you?
Well, let's see. I have a few different, when you use the metaphor of the kitchen, I have different things cooking, something in the oven, maybe something I'm going to stick in the microwave. No, but to start with my dissertation. So my dissertation, hopefully I'll pass my prospectus next week. But right now, so I'm in that stage. So I'm just outlining the project. But it will be a qualitative case study on Muslim women and the motherhood identity, or how motherhood is lived and performed by American Muslim women. And what interests me in that, or how I led into that, is because as a Muslim woman, I have always heard, so the status of motherhood has a very high status in Islam, and I've always understood that through religious texts and male scholars. And so I'm really about reclaiming women's voices. So my qualitative project is about that. It's about talking to Muslim women and saying, what is their lived experience, and how do you navigate this tension between like the religious ideal of this mother, and there's like a very famous saying, that paradise lies at the feet of the mother, like this esteemed ideal figure of the mother, and then your lived experience. I just, I want to hear women's perspectives on that, and so this is also. It's a part of, I'm trying to also speak to, work that has been done by scholars like Andrea O'Reilly, and who are like pioneers of motherhood studies, which is like a part of, it's academic scholarship that has, been sort of placed on the margin, but it's really like understanding like the maternal, what is this identity that affects like, billions of the population. So I'm working on that. At the same time, thinking about, the other projects we have going on. So as I prepare for my qualitative project that I'll be working on next year, I also have, I have an R&R right now with the Journal of Autoethnography, which is, it's about my, it's autoethnographic reflection on my father's death. And it's called My Father Died This Summer, Autoethnographic Reflection on Relationality and Fractured Identities. And so this is something that is really personal and dear to me. And I'll probably be writing about it for the rest of my life. But in that sense, I am an identity scholar. I'm really invested in how people understand themselves and who they are. So one of the things that I look at in both my qualitative dissertation and in this autoethnographic, this thing that I'm working on, which I really plan to be sort of a life project, is how like these hegemonic categories, these labels of, whether it's race or religion or gender, how it it affects how not only our relationship to ourselves, but our relationship to each other. I mean, most specifically, you know, I'm talking about, for example, you know, like how my father and my mother stand in almost like these opposite identities. Like my father, you know, he was, you know, he's white, military, the patriot, and then my mother's like immigrant other. So I'm working on this project, and what I'm really interrogating is, you know, what does it mean when you have these dominant this dominant structure that sort of imposes a way of thinking onto us? What does it do to our thought process and how we see ourselves and how we see one another? And I feel like that theme trickles down into a lot of the other things that I'm working on. I've pulled a few papers also out of the dustbin that I have out, you know, while I'm waiting for like IRB approval on my dissertation. I want to revamp a couple of papers that I have out. One of them is on Miss Marvel, the comic book character, not to be confused with Captain Marvel, but Miss Marvel is like a protege of Captain Marvel for all of you Marvel fans. So I've already written the paper, but this is also about how Miss Marvel navigates her otherness in a world that is sort of coded as like this, you know, as what's normal, what's mainstream, and what are you? So how she sort of navigates that space of her identity, and how, you know, her superhero powers, which is those powers to morph and change, how that becomes like a metaphor or symbolism, I think, in the comic book for that inability to fit in, that shifting, changing, trying to appease the spaces that you're in. So I have that, and oh yeah, and then I have this other paper. It's already written. I just need to mess with it a little bit. It's about I wrote it. It was a top paper at NCA, also in the spiritual communication division. But it's emotion work and the Muslim prayer ritual. So this is really about what does it mean for a non-English speaker, you know, to pray in Arabic. You know what, and I'm using you know, hex theory, communication theory of identity, to sort of think through that. And so those are the things I have going on. So it's several projects, and so yeah, that's about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. And as you can see, that the two award winners here are continually busy, and they are doing wonderful work. But they're not the only ones. They were, of course, the award winners this year, but we have other graduate students that had some major accomplishments as well. So as the music plays and as I get into a little rhythm, let us just go quickly over some of these graduate students who presented, who published, and who received awards. First up is Abby Lackey. Her advisor is Dr. Christy Moss. She had a conference presentation at Southern where her paper was the top ethnographic paper, The Jangling Discourse of Lynching, Liberalization in Jackson, Tennessee, Dreaming the Rhetoric of the South. She was also elected vice president-elect at NCA in the ethnography division, and she has 2 publications, Love in the Time of Chaos, A Philosophy of Human Relations, and Narrative Inheritance, Reflections on Montgomery's National Memorial for Peace and Justice. Turning our attention now to Curtis Chambley, who is advised by Dr. Amanda Neal Edgar. He participated in a top paper at Southern this year in the ethnography division at Southern States Communication Association. The title of the paper, My Life, A Healthcare Narrative from a Cancer Fighter. And then there was Natanya Listach, who is advised by some guy named Andre Johnson. She has 2 publications this year. Women Step Forward, doing rhetorical historiography by exploring womanist leadership in the AME Church. That's a book chapter that's in the Womanist Ethical Rhetoric, a call for liberation and social justice in turbulent times, edited by Annette Matlock and Sharice Glenn. And also in the Women and Language Journal, she published Evolving Identities and Personal Narrative. Time is of the essence. She also has service to her credit because she was elected as the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access Council representative for the NCA Black Caucus, the Public Address Division Nominating Committee of NCA, and she is the incoming chair, elected Rhetoric and Public Address for the Tennessee Communication Association. Boudreaux Smith, Lionel Boudreaux Smith. Again, advisor, some guy named Andre Johnson. He published Liberating Faith and the Journey of Inclusion, a close reading of Paulo Freire's essay, My Faith and Hope, Dialogues in Social Justice, an educational journal. And he also has a publication in the Carolinas Communication Annual. And he also has a forthcoming, should be out tomorrow or by next week, in the Listening Journal of Communication Ethics and Culture. And the title is, And He Gave Some to Be Teachers, a call beyond purpose and toward prophetic consciousness. He also secured some honors and awards as top student paper in the African American Communication and Culture Division at NCA, top paper in the American Society for the History of Rhetoric at Southern this year, and was the student representative of a special research grant from the Black Caucus of NCA. Now, all of those were PhD students, but if you think we're only limited to PhD students here at the University of Memphis, oh no, you're sadly mistaken, because our master students claim publications as well. Kirsten Cheers, who is advised by Dr. Marina Levina, she published The Way We Were, How Black Women Created Space with Verses in a forthcoming book later on this year, an edited collection titled Verses and Club Quarantine, Sustaining Black Music and Black Culture During COVID-19, and published by Lexington Books by Naya Miller. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, okay, they publish, I know they receive awards, they got some presentations, they do service, but do they graduate at the University of Memphis? We do. We are celebrating 2 of our graduate students graduating this year. First up is Michelle Carr, who is advised or was advised by Dr. Amanda Neal Edgar. Her dissertation title was The Construction of Value and Identity in Mobile Games. And then there was Demarie Smith, advised by Andre Johnson. Dissertation titled The Anatomy of the Commencement Speech, an examination of Barack Obama's rhetoric delivered at HBCUs. So not only do we publish, not only do they research, not only do they serve, not only win awards, but they graduate as well too. So let's just give a round of applause to all of the accomplishments our graduate students did in a year like none other, in the COVID year. All righty, well, before we get out of here, I do want to give our awardees just the last thing to say. And when we were talking about this, we wanted to end on a note of I guess, advice or help. So if you would just share just your own thoughts, because we have graduate students that are behind you. that's coming through, going through where you are right now. And since we are live, we have other graduate students probably watching this. So what kind of advice and counsel in these last 2 or 3 minutes that you can give? Let me start with JoAnna, and then we'll end with Noor. JoAnna, what kind of advice and counsel will you give some graduate students?
Well, okay, so thanks. I know you said our own words. I actually am going to steal from others. So there are 2 things that stood out to me in this journey. One of them is when Dr. Goldsmith told me once that people had a right to hear my work or my perspective, something like that. But the sentiment was, but she sort of shifted this, shifted the way that I looked at what I was doing. She said people have a right to hear you, to read your writing, because sometimes we're full of insecurity and imposter syndrome and all that. But I just want to say that if you are in a PhD program, you are being called. You are being called to share your knowledge, your perspective, what you're passionate about. So, and you owe that to the world. So the second thing, that has sort of always been in the back of my mind, and it had just had this profound effect on me. But the other part is I'm going to share something that Miss Lori Stallings told me once when I was, overwhelmed with stuff. She said, it does not have to be perfect. It just has to be done. So that's another thing. Sometimes we get stuck. So I want to share that with new graduate students too. So when you're stuck, just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. And one more thing, just for me, since I want to share something from me. One more thing is just save everything you write, because everything that you write, you can publish it somewhere, sometime, maybe not right away, but it can end, pieces of it can end up in other works. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you. And Noor?
Hi, everyone. So I have 2 pieces of advice that I was thinking yesterday. I mean, the first one is going to sound very cliche, but I really want to kind of expand on it, is to really believe in yourself and stand up for yourself if necessary. And I think I, like many others, suffer from imposter syndrome, where I question my successes and I think I don't own them, or they were just happenstance. And so really being aware that I, like many others, do have imposter syndrome, and being cognizant of its effect is very important. And I think especially when you come to start doing your own scholarship, if you are doing anything meaningful at all, you will get pushback. Some people will doubt you. Some people won't understand your work. They won't have it in them to understand what you're doing and what you want to say. They might question you or want to undermine you. And so I really feel that at this stage, when you're a graduate student and a graduate scholar, it's really important to value your work and be alert to the company that you keep. And whilst also always remaining open to feedback and open to knowing that we all have gaps in knowledge and we all are always learning, and there's so much that we still don't know. And so finding the balance between those 2 is really important. And then finally, I wanted to say, for me, I mean, I'm a mother and a wife, and I have many different hats, and also a scholar, and also doing my PhD. And so finding the rhythm between graduate work, and then life outside of graduate school hasn't always been easy. And so for me, that's meant not doing everything at once. I find that the best way for me to prioritize one item or for this season that I'm going through and do that well. And so at the beginning of when I first came to the program, I was a part-time student. I took only 2 courses instead of 3, because I was also, having babies, and I was raising a family and had other responsibilities. And then last year with the pandemic, I was delayed in finishing my prospectus because there were major life changes happening at home. And so that was a season where I had to then, give more time to other things, other responsibilities. But simultaneously, when I do then turn to my work, I try to be as attentive as possible and to really go in depth and give my readings, give my writing all of my concentration, or as much as I can. And so that definitely is a privilege that I've had. I mean, I know not everybody can do that, but I've tried or attempted to take my work in seasons and not do everything all at once and balance all at once. And sometimes it may mean that some things take more weight of my time, and then sometimes I have to lean back and give other aspects more time. And so I think with time for new students, this will eventually fall into place, but we shouldn't beat ourselves up if during some seasons we're not able to produce academically and other things take precedence. And so giving yourself compassion and is also really important. Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you. I think first of all, that's wise counsel. That's good, solid advice. And I'm listening too. So I am moved by the words that you just shared. Well, that's it. I hope that everyone enjoyed our small presentation today. We would rather be together in person, over a meal maybe, and just having a good time and all of that. But we did want to just stop just for a moment to acknowledge and celebrate the award winners and our graduate students who have worked so hard in a season of pandemic, working hard and still contributing not only to the knowledge of our discipline, but doing service and doing everything that you do. As Noor says, that all of us wear many different hats as well too. And we're doing all of that. And somehow here it is at the end of the semester, we can look over our shoulder and say, wow, we did that. We did that. I just want to say thank you for all of the graduate students, all of the faculty who joined us into the Zoom room. If you would just stick around after we, end the live stream just for a few moments. If you have any questions or comments or you just want to talk or whatever, we would do that as well too. But I do want to thank the faculty and all of you for joining in. I know some people had to jump out and attend to other duties, but so thankful that you stopped by and participated and helped celebrate these awesome graduate students and awesome teachers and scholars in their own right. So without any further ado, I am Dr. Andre Johnson, Associate Professor of Rhetoric and Media Studies at the University of Memphis in the Department of Communication and Film. This is Noor Aswad. This is JoAnna Boudreaux. They are the winners of our awards, graduate student awards this year. The people that you may see or may not see in the Zoom room are graduate students and faculty at the University of Memphis. And we are all inviting all of you to come